Hello and welcome. It is November 19th, 2025, and if you're in Tamil Nadu, you know that yesterday was, well, it was a wet one. We saw some really heavy downpours, so the big question on everyone's mind is, are we going to see a repeat of that today? Let's dive in and break it all down. Yeah, this is the one question I think we all have. After that intense rain yesterday, you're probably wondering if you need to brace for round two. To figure out what's coming, we first have to look back at just how much rain we actually got. So let's rewind the clock just 24 hours, because what happened yesterday is the absolute key to understanding the forecast for today. Wow. Okay, just look at this number for a second. 120 millimeters. That was the highest reading, and it was in Ayukudi in the Tenkasi district. To give you some perspective, that is a ton of rain in a very short period. We're talking about the kind of deluge that can easily cause some serious local flooding. And Ayakudi wasn't alone, not by a long shot. You can see here the rain was spread out, especially hitting those southern districts hard. You've got multiple spots in Tenkasi and Tirunelveli that blew past the 100-millimeter mark, and even up in Chennai, Thirudiyur got a decent soaking with almost 60 millimeters. So the main takeaway here is, this wasn't just a localized event, it was powerful and pretty widespread. So what's the engine behind all of this? What's actually causing all this rain? Let's peel back the curtain and look at the meteorology behind it. The main character in our story is something called a low-pressure system. The easiest way to think about it is like a giant vacuum cleaner in the atmosphere. It sucks in all the moist air from the surrounding area, pulls it upward, and that air then cools, forms clouds, and, you guessed it, gives us rain. This system is the reason for everything we've been seeing. Now, here's where things get really interesting. The main low-pressure area, the core of the storm, has actually moved on. It's now heading west towards Lakshadweep. So you might be asking, then why is it still raining? Well, it's left behind this long tail, what we call a convergence zone. Imagine a massive highway of moisture stretching all the way from Sri Lanka to Indonesia. This zone is still pulling in all those wet easterly winds from the Bay of Bengal, right over us. And that's the key. It's why we're still getting rain today. But the good news is, it's going to be less intense than yesterday. Okay, so that's the science behind it. But what does it mean for you right now? Let's get into the specifics of who can expect rain today and how much. All right, if you live in one of these areas, you'll want to keep the umbrella handy because you could see some heavier spells today. We're talking about some of the coastal districts like Cuddalore and Nagapattinam, the high-altitude spots in the Western Ghats like the Nilgiris, and then a whole bunch of the southern districts, right down to Kanyakumari. These are the zones where those pockets of heavier rain are most likely to pop up. Now, for pretty much everybody else across the state, the story is a bit different. We're expecting more light to moderate rain. And you can see this covers a huge part of Tamil Nadu, from the northern interior down through the central and delta regions. So the bottom line is, most of us will see some rain, it just won't be that crazy downpour we saw yesterday. And for all of you in Chennai specifically, what can you expect? Well, it looks like it'll be an on-again, off-again kind of day. We're forecasting intermittent spells of light to moderate rain. So probably not a total washout, but definitely expect some showers to move through. Of course, weather doesn't really care about state borders, does it? So let's zoom out a little bit and see what's happening for our neighbors in Kerala, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh. And it's really a tale of two different forecasts here. If you look over at Kerala, they are in for a very, very wet day. We're talking widespread moderate to heavy rain across most of the state. But for Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh, it's a much calmer picture. They're looking at more scattered, light to moderate showers, mainly in places like Bengaluru and Tirupati. All right, so we've got a good handle on today. But the weather never stands still. So let's look ahead and see what's already cooking out there on the horizon. This timeline really spells it out for us. Today, we're dealing with the leftovers of the last system. But look what's coming. By tomorrow, a new cyclonic circulation is set to form out in the Bay of Bengal. And by the 21st, the forecast models are showing it strengthening into a whole new low-pressure area. This is really important. While today is looking calmer, we definitely need to keep our eyes on what's brewing for the end of the week. Okay, we've gone through a lot of information, so let's just boil it all down to the most important points, the things you really need to remember for today. So here it is, plain and simple. First, the big headline. Today's rain will not be as intense as yesterday's. That's the good news. Second, some heavy showers are still possible, but they'll be concentrated in the south, the Western Ghats, and a few coastal spots. For most of us, it'll just be light to moderate rain. And finally, the big one. We have to watch what's coming next. A brand new low-pressure system is forming, and it's something we need to monitor closely as we head towards the 21st. And that really brings us to the final question, doesn't it? We know this new system is on its way, but the million-dollar question is, how strong will it get? Could it intensify into something more significant? Well, that is exactly what we'll be watching over the next few days. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Stay safe and stay dry.